Hi, everyone. This is Elsie Kerns, your overwhelmed warrior. And tonight I have a special guest, Evan Marcus, and he is the author of Addicted to Struggle.
Yeah.
And we all know what that is today. So this is perfect timing. Evan, welcome because I have a lot of questions for you.
Awesome.
Okay?
I'm excited.
Me too. So this topic, what led you to write this book? Because when I went through it, and from the couple of times that we've communicated, what I've been most impressed with and struck by is your own personal transparency and how much of your own personal story that you share along with other stories of people that have given you permission to do that, and how this actually your work on yourself helped others. So tell us how this all came about. Evan? Whoops. Okay. Sorry, guys. I lost Evan for a few minutes, but I'm sure he'll try to get back on. And while Evan is gone, I am going to slip in here and tell you a little bit more about Addicted to Struggle, because Evan is going to offer a great workshop, and that is going to be on October 10th, 3:45 to 5:15. And it's going to be right here locally in Haddonfield. But the best part of this workshop is that it's going to be on Zoom. So if you would like to attend, no matter where you are, you can attend very easily. And I gave the information above Facebook there, and it will also be available in the link below. I'll put it there and I'll share it with you again. So one of the things that I started to say before I lost Evan was that he really and truly is very personally transparent in his book, Addicted to Struggle. And he shares so much of his own life and what led him then to help others. So he does a lot of work as an executive coach and helping others work with their own anxiety and struggles. And the subtitle of the book, of course, is How to Stop Winning at This Losing Game. There's no doubt that today we are all addicted to struggle in some way, and it has manifested in a number of ways in our life over the last year. We've had very little control over what has happened as a result of COVID-19 and this pandemic and other things that have happened. It's affected every area of our life, from education, sports, our personal life, and just having the freedom to go out to a restaurant, to a movie theater, to all the things that we've always enjoyed. Okay, so I'm very sorry. I don't know how we lost Evan, but again, let me give you information. He's giving the Addicted to Struggle workshop on Zoom. Saturday, October 10th. Hi, Evan. Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. We're in a full moon. It's been a wild week. So let me bring you back up here. Okay. Whoop. Trying to get you. There you are.
So good to be back. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So great. So I was just talking about your workshop, and the question I had when I was before we got on the power outage was about your personal transparency. I know in all of the lecturing you've done, the work that you've done, and also as an executive coach, you've shared an enormous amount of your own personal journey, very, very transparent in your book, Addicted to Struggle. So tell us how this book came about, what led to it, and a little bit more about you and what you do.
Okay. Well, I did not want to write this book. The book I wanted to write I wanted to write a book about play. At play, when I was in graduate school, I was introduced to this concept of play and being playful in life and understanding play. And it's something I've studied and explored for 25, 30 years. And I've been wanting to write this book. And I had lunch with a colleague of mine, and she had said to me, actually, I'd written a different book, and I'd written these 365 daily meditations about play, and she loved them. She was an executive coach, and she was working over at Aramark. And she said, Evan, if you just wrote a book about these concepts, I think it would take off more. And her husband at the time was the editor for the Harvard Business Review. So I gave her ideas some credence. But I thought, the last thing I want to do is write a book. And she said, it's 10 chapters, 180 pages. And we were in Philly, and I'm driving home, and I'm thinking the last thing I want to do is write another book. And somehow when I got to my office, I sat down and started to write. But what came out was Addicted to Struggle, not the book on play. And the whole time I was writing the book, I kept saying, I don't want to write this book. I want to write the book about play. It was kind of like two books woven together. And then finally, I had an awareness of what was happening, that the book that really wanted to come out versus the one I wanted to come out was this story about Addicted to Struggle. And as I was writing it hit me that I really couldn't write the book about play and the liberation of play without first talking about this idea of Addicted to Struggle.
Wow, that's great. So that created this book from play. That's amazing, because they're like totally opposite things, completely different.
Well, again, I kind of laughed at myself. I was struggling with writing a book about Addicted to Struggle. I was like, this is silly. Just let go and write what's here. But the whole concept of play is really about exploration and discovery and a place of freedom. But what Addicted to Struggle was about, that as much as I want that, and much as many other people want to be happy and other things we desire, unbeknownst to us, there's this subconscious, unconscious commitment we have to struggle. And so the truth was, until I could I could help people understand this addiction to struggle, it doesn't matter how hard you want to play and how much you want the freedom, because there's this other thing that's going to keep pulling you down. It's going to conflict with it. So then it made sense that, until you could find the freedom to play, the freedom from, and this is an addiction like any other addiction. And so it was just fascinating to me as I started to write more about it to understand this notion of Addicted to Struggle. It made more and more sense to me.
So, Evan, I know that you're an executive coach and that you do a lot of lecturing and coaching one-on-one, not only executive coaching, but the everyday person. So tell me how you have found your work about helping people understand the addiction to struggle and this whole situation that we've been in for the last 9 months with COVID.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Maybe I'm embarrassed to answer that question. In some ways, I've kept this book separate from quote unquote my work. And so unless people know me well, really well, there's people I coach have no idea I even wrote this book. And I think maybe even part of that was that without being hard on myself, I like to bake bread as one of my hobbies. And I was raised by two bread baking grandfathers, but it needs time to ferment. And maybe the time just wasn't right for kind of me to be more open and talking about Addicted to Struggle. And really where it came from now, why I'm doing the workshop, I send out, constant contact blasts, and I want to make them educational. And I wrote one about trusting ease, and the whole idea that the basic gestalt in the workplace is to really bust your butt. And I was writing about that ease is really our genius in action. And Darlene DePasquale, who's a friend of ours and runs the yoga center in Philadelphia, she called me. She said, I mean, Haddonfield. She was like, Evan, man, this is what I needed to read today. And it was really her kind of sending that thing out and her comment. I was like, I think now's the time to get this message out there more. And so it just kind of happened easily like that. So I'm trusting the timing of it right now.
Well, I don't think there could be any better timing. I mean, we are all struggling in this situation that, I mean, has just prolonged itself, with always on the back end the fear about it, reemerging and re-escalating. The freedom that we feel that we've lost, and I talked a little bit about that when we lost you temporarily, was the freedom that we had just to go to a restaurant and the movie theaters and just everyday things that we didn't even think about. So that helping people understand, and you mentioned that underneath that subconscious uh, situation going on for us. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. And so, if you think about any addiction, there's, and I'll try to describe it simply, is that it usually starts because someone, whatever, it could be a drink, it could be a drug, it could be gambling, it could be sex. Like, you do something, it feels good at first. And then you want to do it some more because it feels good. And when you're doing it, you're not aware of you're doing it because there's some, what we call the hole in the soul. There's something that is needing feeding. And you don't realize that this feeling good thing is really covering over that feeling. And so you keep doing it, but eventually that good feeling stops. But people keep going after that feeling. And so now you're doing something that's actually not only not making feeling good, but it's harming you. And then the whole notion of addiction is you really can't stop, even though it's actually harming you. And the addiction, the struggle, where it comes from, the hole in the soul, what I discovered and again, when I write, I really don't know. It's an act of discovery and exploration. If you would have sat down next to me that first day when I started typing and said, Evan, can you explain this to me? I would have said, no, I don't understand it. But the writing things, I feel like I'm a channel in a kind of sense. It comes through me. And as I'm typing, I'm like, wow, that's an amazing idea. I never thought of that before. So what came to me is that the essence underneath the addiction, the struggle, is the sense that we're not good enough. This is not complicated. It's simple. That there's a core belief, a feeling that many of us have, but we're not aware of it all the time. But it's this, I'm not good enough. And we're trying to fill that somehow. We're trying to overcome that sense of I'm not good enough. And we've been taught societally this whole idea, no pain, no gain. I write in the book, even back to biblical stories, the mythology of our life, the heroes, it all comes from struggle. And so unconsciously, we have this sense that if I just worked hard enough, if I just struggled enough, and I explain this more in the book, that would overcome that not good enough. But just like any addiction, the sex, the drugs, the alcohol, it doesn't fill that hole. It doesn't matter how much you struggle, how hard you work, it will never fill that not good enough hole. And what I talk about in the book is the thing that does fill it is love. Finding out, I really believe it's the spiritual journey, and it's very broad, whatever your spiritual journey is, but it's finding love, finding that you love yourself, figuring that out, finding that you're loved, feeling that you're loved by the divine, the creator, that essentially there is no hole. It's filled by this knowledge of the love. And so that's what I write about. I describe the different ways that this addiction, the struggle got into our subconscious, where we started to believe societally that the struggle will fulfill that need that we have, and this idea that the path is finding love.
What you're saying, in a way, is something we keep hearing over and over again, is that love conquers all.
Well, it's again, if you imagine, it's like eating. You're trying to find the right nutrients,
Yes.
and somehow you've been told it's this stuff. It's like, imagine somehow you got to believe that it was white bread, and sugar that would fill that hole. And so you just keep eating it, but it doesn't fill the hole. It fills you up, but it doesn't fill the hole. What we need, the true nutrient we need, is love. Now, for me, in my own, what I liked about the book is that I'm a big fan of people finding their own spiritual path as opposed to any one, this is the right way. But I do believe that the path to filling that void is finding a spiritual path that works for us. And the essence to me of the spiritual path is love, is finding out that, for me, I do believe in God, creator, source, higher power. Sometimes I refer to him or her as Louis. I have many different versions of this, but for me in my path, to find out that that source of life loves me, like truly loves and cares for me, that I am loved regardless of what any human may do and regardless of my upbringing, that I am in the depths of my being, that I am loved. And that somehow in that journey to find out that I love myself. And so the reason it was so important with the play is that I realized you can't really play full out unless you're coming from that place. That's when you have the freedom to play versus, again, striving for this unconscious desire. Because in the face of play, we're going to choose struggle. It's so insidious, this struggle thing. And it's like a conspiracy against us that somehow we've been conned into believing that struggle and this whole no pain, no gain is the path.
So you said that from some of the things that you wrote, Darlene said, "Oh my God, this is just what I need. Come teach this." So the Zoom workshop, so no matter where you are, you can
Yeah.
tap into this with Evan. It'll be recorded for replay. So if for some reason something comes up and you're not able to attend, you will get the replay. It's very reasonable. It's only $45.
And you get the book.
Right, and you get a signed copy
Yeah.
of the book
Yes.
from Evan, and it's 3:45 to 5:15 on Saturday, October 10th. So just think about registering. The link is there, and how you can
Thank
register
you.
part of this.
And what we'll do in the workshop, I'll talk about some of these concepts, but more importantly, it'll give people a chance to reflect on themselves and look at where they're choosing struggle. So this has nothing to do with, the COVID and all that stuff, the restaurants, that's all outside of us. The struggle is happening with how we're reacting to it. It's not about what's happening out there. And so the workshop will help people really look at that struggle mechanism within him and see how they can choose ease over struggle in situations. Everything from, how you're eating, how you're praying, relationships with your spouse, attitudes about, it touches every area of our life.
Well, it sounds very beneficial. And not only will they get, as you said, the things that you're going to talk about, but they'll also have the book that they can refer to and read and go back. And again, you have a lot of case histories in here and stories of real people that have worked with this struggle and had success, including yourself. True, right?
And it's an ongoing, trust me, I am not cured of this thing. I'll end with this because I think we're going to move on. The last chapter of the book, I was having trouble letting go of the book because I feel like I'm caught up in this as much as anybody. And information was coming through the book, but it's not like I have mastered it all. And what came to me at the end was a story. One day I was going to lead a workshop and I was feeling nervous. It was a leadership workshop about change management. And I was feeling like a fraud because I thought, man, I need to learn this stuff as much as anybody. And I bumped into a friend of mine who passed away a couple of years ago, a guy named Rick Trulino, who was also a therapist. And I was telling him I was feeling anxious and as a fraud. And he said to me, Evan, we teach what we need to learn. And it's not an accident that you're the one going up and teaching these folks. And that story came back in my mind. And I realized that just because I'm a student of this book doesn't mean I can't also be the author of it and share it with people. So I'm on this journey with you.
So, Evan, I'd also like you to share, while we're talking about your work, you and your wife, Tara, with Dylan Marcus, have another special program that you offer, Spot It. You want to give us
Yep.
a little information
You know
about?
what you get is part of my story. I've dealt with anxiety, for much of my life, and I was introduced to a program about 20 years ago that really helped me. And about 2 years ago, we decided we were realizing so many people deal with anxiety and stress in the workplace that we built a program called Spot It, which teaches people a very simple method. It kind of connects to addiction to struggle because it's a simple method that really helps retrain how we think and reduce uh, kind of our struggle reaction to things, but it really helps reduce anxiety and stress. And it just creates so much more peace in your life. And we're able to teach that into companies. We're able to sell it as a wellness benefit into companies. It's an online course, it's in person. We can train certified people to go out and teach the method. And we just want to help. There's so many people that are dealing with anxiety and don't have this simple tool that can help them. So we're on a mission in that as part of our leadership work. And hopefully I'll come back on and we'll do something about Spot It one day. And
Yes, we can do something on that. So I just want to remind everyone that this workshop, Addicted to Struggle, how to stop winning at this losing game.
I take no credit for the subtitle. That was my wife, Tara. I was like, because that really is the essence of the story. Like, how do you stop winning this losing game? I take no credit for those words. That was her.
Great. So it'll be Saturday, October 10th,
Yep.
2:45 to 5:15. You're going to receive a signed copy of the book, in addition to having Evan lead you through some of the issues that he's laid out detail by detail in the book. And it'll be on Zoom, online. So if for any reason you can't make that day or your plans change, you'll be able to watch the replay and, of course, read the book as well. So you're going to contact write info at haddonfieldyogacenter.com, and that link is right there up on Facebook.
Nice, thanks.
Or you can call there. I'll put their number up there and talk to them and register that way.
And hopefully you'll see Elsie there too. Hopefully you'll be able to join us that day, and all you need is a pen and a piece of paper because we'll be doing some movement stuff, and obviously if you want to, and you'll have a chance to some of these exercises. It's good to be able to kind of journal and write down some of the questions I'll be asking or some of the exercises we'll do to help identify the struggle and the unstruggle.
Okay, so make sure you bring, a small copybook and a pen so you can write down actually the insights that you
Absolutely.
get from
Absolutely.
this workshop with Evan. So Evan, thanks so much for
Oh,
joining me.
thank you so much, Elsie.
I love the book, and I agree that we are all working on this every day.
Yeah, right.
Okay, enjoy that full moon out there, everyone.
Thank you.
This moon, we have 2 full moons in October, and tonight it should be the biggest of the biggest full moon. So this is Elsie Kerns, your overwhelmed warrior, and Evan Marcus his website is there, www.dylanmarcus.com.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Great to be with you.